how can someone be buried and alive at the same time? That's what I asked myself the day I found my own grave. It all started with a phone call I wasn't supposed to answer. A soft, distant voice, an old woman. She must have dialed the wrong number. Or maybe not. She asked, "Is this Eliza Monroe?" I said yes. Then silence. And then, in a trembling whisper, "You died here, in 1994. The line went dead. I stared at my phone, the screen still glowing. My heart was pounding, like it knew something I didn't. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I tried to laugh it off. Prank calls happen. But the name, my full name, and the year, 1994, the year I was born. That night I barely slept. Something gnawed at me, a feeling I couldn't shake. By morning, I'd made a decision. I typed Eliza Monroe plus grave plus 1994 into a search engine, not expecting anything. But there it was. A small town obituary from Waverly, population barely 2,000. Infant girl, Eliza Monroe, buried after tragic birth complications. Date of death, October 12th, 1994, my birthday. I laughed, nervously. Must be a coincidence, I told myself. But I called my mom anyway, just to ask about the day I was born. She paused. "Why?" she asked too quickly. "Who told you something?" I asked again, calmly. She fumbled through a vague answer. Hospital in the city. Everything was fine. Why dig up the past? It didn't feel right. By the time we hung up, I'd already bought a bus ticket to Waverly. 2 days later, I was standing in front of a small churchyard cemetery. The air smelled of damp leaves and old wood. A crow landed on the fence post and watched me. Too still, too long. I walked slowly down the rows, my boots crunching gravel, my breath catching in my chest. Then I saw it. A small white stone, half covered in moss. Carved into it, Eliza Monroe, October 12th, 1994. October 12th, 1994. Born sleeping, loved still. My knees buckled. That was my name, my birth date, my grave. I stood there frozen, wind moving through the trees, a cold sweat on my back. I was alive, and yet, someone had buried me. I spent the rest of that day walking the streets of Waverly. It was a quiet town, the kind that felt stuck in time. Old buildings, rusted fences, people who knew each other by name, and knew when someone didn't belong. When I asked about the grave, no one wanted to talk. The old woman at the diner stared at her hands. The man at the general store said, "You must be mistaken." But they all gave me the same look, fear maybe, or guilt. It was like I'd said something forbidden. The next day, I went to the local records office. A kind, middle-aged clerk helped me search the archives. She pulled out a birth and death certificate. Same date, same name. Infant girl. Cause of death, complications during delivery. I asked if there was a hospital record. She hesitated. "That hospital closed down years ago," she said. "Fire, or funding issues. Hard to say." But I saw something flicker in her expression. She knew something. So I did what I've always been good at, waiting. I sat in the library all afternoon, waited until her shift ended, then I followed her. She didn't notice me, or maybe she did. She walked 2 blocks, unlocked the door to an old storage building, and went inside. 10 minutes later, she came out, with a file folder. She didn't say a word, just handed it to me on the street, then turned and walked away. Inside, photocopies, notes, faded forms. One of them, a neonatal report from October 12, 1994. Patient name, Eliza Monroe. Live birth. No complications. Infant released to mother, Rachel Monroe. My mother. My fingers went numb. I read it again. The baby didn't die. She was released. And if that's true, then who is buried in that grave? I didn't sleep that night. I laid in the motel bed, staring at the ceiling fan spinning slowly above me, the folder clutched to my chest. My mind kept replaying one sentence from the medical file. Infant released to Rachel Monroe. My mother's name. My entire life, that name had meant home, safety. But now it felt suspiciously convenient. The next morning, I went to the public library. Old newspapers, microfiche, dust, and silence. After hours of searching, I found it. A single article, small, buried on page 6 of the local paper from October 13th, 1994. Local woman delivers healthy baby girl at Waverly Memorial. There was a photo. The nurse was smiling, the baby swaddled in white, and the woman holding the child was not my mother. She had dark hair, a strong jaw. Her eyes looked tired but proud. She was labeled Mary Holloway, 27. Not Rachel. Not Monroe. I stared at the picture. The baby had my nose, my ears, that odd little freckle under the left eye. The one people always said was cute and unique. It was me, but in the arms of a stranger. I took a photo of the newspaper on my phone. My hands were shaking. What the hell had my mother done? I called her, straight to voicemail. Then again, nothing. I texted, I need to talk. It's about Waverly. It's important. No reply. That night, I drove to my childhood home. It was a 6-hour trip, but I didn't even feel the miles. Just the burning question building in my chest. My mother answered the door like nothing was wrong. Smiled. Hugged me. But I didn't hug back. I just said, I need you to tell me the truth. She didn't ask what truth. She just sat down on the couch. And her hands began to tremble. My mother, the woman I had trusted all my life, sat in silence for a long time. Then she whispered, I wasn't supposed to be able to have children. I had lost 2 before you. She took a deep breath. When you were born, it wasn't you. My baby didn't make it. She looked up at me, her eyes glossy and broken. But in the next room, there was another baby. Born the same day, same time almost. Healthy. Unclaimed. I stared at her. You took her? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. She nodded. Her mother died. Alone. No ID, no family. The nurse turned away for just a moment, and You stole her, I said. She didn't deny it. They thought I was still grieving. No one questioned when I left with a baby. So you gave me her name? I didn't know what else to do. Eliza Monroe had a grave now, but you had a future. I wanted to scream, to run. Instead, I just sat there, shaking, crying. My whole life, my name, my family, was it mine? I wasn't Eliza Monroe. I was no one. That night, I drove back to Waverly. The road was wet, empty, dark. I parked in front of the cemetery and walked to the little white stone again. Born sleeping, it said. Loved still. I touched the cold marble with my fingertips. It wasn't me, but it was the identity I'd lived my whole life. And somewhere, in an unmarked grave, my mother, my real mother, lay buried. Unnamed. Forgotten. I didn't even know her name. But she gave birth to me, and she died, without anyone ever knowing who I became. The next morning, I returned to the county records office in Waverly. I asked about the unnamed woman from the hospital in October 1994. At first, they told me there was no record, no family, no documentation, no burial site. But I pressed. I begged. Finally, the clerk brought out a dusty box. Inside, one document. Jane Doe, died in childbirth. Infant female unregistered, mother unidentified. There was no photo, just a line in faded ink. Body interred, Section C, municipal grounds, not even a headstone. I went there that afternoon. It wasn't a cemetery, just a patch of overgrown land behind the old hospital building, now abandoned. I stood among the weeds, the silence heavy, and I spoke to the woman I never knew, the woman who gave me life and lost hers. I don't know your name, I whispered, but I came back. I found you. You're not forgotten. That night I stared at my birth certificate, the one that said Eliza Monroe, and the folder beside it, the one with the hospital record from 1994, same birth date, different mother. I could erase the lie. I could go to court, change my name, my story, my everything. But would that bring her back? Would that give me peace? Or would it just erase the only life I've ever known? In the end, I didn't file the paperwork, not yet. But I did one thing. I bought a small white stone, had it engraved, for the woman who gave me life. You are remembered. You are loved. I placed it in that unmarked patch of land behind the hospital. No one else would ever know it was there, but I would. And from that day forward, I carried two names, the one I was given and the one I gave back. Thank you for staying with me through this story. If it moved you, if it made you think about identity, about where we come from and who we truly are, please like, subscribe, and share this video. And remember, sometimes the truth doesn't change your past, but it gives your future a name.